Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. We know that the education system in Scotland is in the toilet, and it is quite literally going down the pan as we speak. However, there is one turd that won't flush, and that is Jenny Gilruth. The Scottish Government, knowing how bad the education system was, commissioned a whole range of experts to form a committee, look at it, decide what the best course of action would be, and to implement the changes necessary to lift Scottish education back up, hopefully somewhere close to its previous very high levels. And so this committee met, they talked, they ruminated, and then they produced their report. They produced their advice to say, do this, and Scotland's education will lift and improve. And Jenny Gilruth, who is the Education Minister, in her wonderful, infinite wisdom, took one look at the report and said, no, I know better than you, and basically ripped it up, shredded it, burnt it, buried the ashes so that no one may know. This is a woman appointed by the SNP government who is now going against the advice given to her by the SNP government's own panel of experts. So she's now actively working against her own government. That is how bad things are in the SNP, that nobody has a clue what they're doing. And when advice is given, expert, knowledgeable advice, it's ignored. Presumably, of course, so that Jenny Gilruth can feel important in her own mind. Oh no, I'm cleverer than that. Let me fix it with my ideas. Jenny, you've been there long enough, love. Nothing's got better. Everything has got worse. Do you think you're making a good job of what you're doing? Or are you just as useless as everyone else? Mark B on the answer paper. Now, this nationalist executive that asked for this report are now questioning Jenny Gilruth, why she's not proceeding with it. Because, she's got no alternative offering of ways to improve education. She just doesn't like the fact that she's being told what to do, presumably because it belittles her. One can only assume. I can't think of another reason. Now, Louise Hayward, who is an education assessment expert at Glasgow University, wanted to make sure I got her title there right, she outlined proposals which involves ditching national fives, which involves less testing through the year, and which is more based on, how we put it, qualifications achieved through the year, put it that way, rather than all the eggs in one basket with a big final examination. The final examination should still exist, but it should have a smaller impact on the final score. And there must be methodologies through the year that show that you're advancing, and so that you don't proceed. It's a procedural way. You can't proceed to the next level until you've passed the previous one, basically. It's stepping stones. And that's a very good way. Now, I've done an OU degree, and that's what they do there. In order to go from here to here to here to here, you have to pass various bits along the way. It's how you advance. And you can go back. If you fail, you go back, you can take it again until you pass. And you keep doing it until you pass. And then, of course, you still have the final exam at the end. But that is all part and parcel of it. And it's a good system, and it works. And this is what they were proposing, this stepping stones model, rather than a final exam, throw all your eggs in one basket that currently exists. And Gilruth says, no, she doesn't like it. Now, the problem, of course, with education is not only is the actual methodology of the exams damaging, it's also the fact that there aren't enough teachers. Teachers are not coming into the profession. Those that do are only on temporary contracts. They're not, for example, given full-time permanent contracts. They're given short-term, 6-month, 1-year contracts because schools don't know if they can fund them beyond that. Those teachers at the top are leaving because the stresses are too big, too involved, and they're like, let's take it, let's go, take me pension and run away. You've got others that are looking for opportunities south of the border where, firstly, the pay is better. Secondly, you're not taxed as much. And thirdly, there's less likelihood of being physically or sexually attacked within the classroom by pupils, not staff. And there's also the fact that in England, head teachers can throw children out of their schools. Head teachers in Scotland have had that power removed. And so little Johnny comes in, does something terrible to a teacher, but the head teacher cannot get little Johnny out of that school. So when the teacher walks in again, little Johnny's sitting there, smirking. What a way, eh? What a way to run a school. And so this behavioural issue becomes very large and very important. And again, Jenny Gilruth is not addressing the behavioural requirements needed to change in Scottish schools. And this also was part of this assessment by this team. They were saying that the powers need to be handed back to head teachers. And of course, Jenny Gilruth doesn't like that, because if the head teachers have the power to run their schools, then there's no opportunity for the education minister to micromanage every single aspect of schooling in Scotland. Now, this panel also said that their methodologies, their advice, and their what they're saying, their solutions, if you will, would also work out slightly cheaper than the current model as well. And they're saying it's a much more beneficial in terms of results, educational results per cost of pupil. And so she's rejected that as well. So she's insistent on wasting money to achieve lower standards, to achieve worsening schools, to achieve fewer teachers. And she is the education secretary. I suspect she needs to go back to school and learn a lot about management, economics, and how to actually perform her duties. I'm not too sure that she can do this. I don't think she's bright enough. Andy Harvey, who is the National Officer for the Educational Institute of Scotland, he has blasted her comments and blasted her actions and said that we've had all we can have from this government. All that we've had from this government, my apologies, is delay and heel dragging and a refusal to change policies. And he says the need to reduce exams is inarguable, and that the Scottish government is rowing back from reform because it thinks it's expensive. But as the panel pointed out, ultimately it's cheaper per pupil on educational outcome. It's much better for Scotland. I don't think it's anything to do with money. I think it's all to do with power. Jenny's got some, and she's not willing, I think, to give it up. And that ultimately is the saddest approach of all, because children are having their futures denied because of one woman's mad ego trip. Thanks very much. Let me know what you think, and I will speak to you later. Bye.